Hello YouTube. We are currently underneath my 74 Mercury, and I decided I wanted to make this video for the general public, anybody who might be trying to remove their Ford transmission, because there wasn't any good videos on it, and it was quite confusing in the book, and I didn't really know what I was looking at. I've never done a Ford transmission, so I really don't know. So basically here's just a few tips or things that you need to know before you try to pull this transmission, or I guess engine, because that's what I'm doing, on one of these old Ford cars. As far as I am aware, they're all the same. You'll have to do this on all of them, but I could be wrong on that, so don't quote me. But anyway, so if you're used to doing GM like I am, you got to take the inspection cover off, and then you've got access to the torque converter, and you unbolt them. I think it's 3, maybe 4 bolts for the torque converter, and then you pull the transmission out. It's no big deal. The starter can stay on the engine. Nothing has to really come off of that. You just got to take the torque converter bolts off once you release the bell housing. But anyway, Ford isn't like that. Ford has this stupid they call it inspection cover, but it's not really an inspection cover. It's this sort of shield that goes below the bell housing. Since this is a solid bell housing, this isn't plastic, you can't remove this. So you remove this instead, and then you got their 5/8 bolts. You got 2 of them, 1 and 2, and you have to take this off before you take the engine off, even though you shouldn't have to because you've already removed all 6 bell housing bolts. You still have to because these count as bell housing bolts, because this shield here is part of the engine, and this is going to come off because the flywheel is in here. So when you pull the engine off of the transmission, the flywheel is going to come with it. So if you don't unbolt these bolts, it'll wreck some shit, because you'll be tugging on. I don't even want to know what would happen if you tried to do that. So you do have to take, anybody who's wondering, you do have to take this shield off. You can't skip on that. You have to. The other thing that you're going to want to do is the starter. Now, this is the weirdest starter I've ever seen on a vehicle. Maybe it's because I'm not used to working on Fords, even though I own more of them than I do General Motors. But anyway, the starter is actually mounted to the transmission. It's backwards. Engine starters on GMs the gears are pointed that way, and they're mounted to your engine block. So when you pull the transmission, you don't have to take the starter off. But Fords, see this? This is bolted straight into the bell housing. You can't see that one on the camera, but both this one and that one are both going straight into the bell housing, and they're 1/2-inch bolts on this particular car. So you have to take these off before you take the transmission out, which is stupid, because I was really hoping I wouldn't have to deal with that. But it looks like I'm going to have to, because otherwise, again, this shield here is going to come with the engine. The starter is bolted to the transmission, and the shield is sandwiched in between. So you'd probably bend this shield if you unbolted these bolts here and here, but you didn't take the starter off. You'd pull it out and you'd wreck the shield, and you probably won't be able to get a different one. So those are my tips, or little things that you need to know before you remove your Ford transmission, specifically the C6. That's what this is. But I just watched a video of some guy doing a 4R70W, and it was the same thing, relatively speaking. So yeah, make sure you get those things done, even though it's going to seem like a hassle and a pain in the ass. You have to. So do it, and thank me later.